Idaho has gone from a pandemic-era dream destination to what now looks like a full-blown real estate downturn, with home prices falling at a surprising pace. If you bought a home here after 2021, you might want to brace yourself because the state's housing market has taken a serious hit. In this 2026 breakdown, I'm going to go through the 10 Idaho cities where prices are dropping the fastest. And for recent buyers, the numbers are honestly hard to look at. Not long ago, many people thought they were making a smart move leaving California for cheaper homes near the Rockies. Now, a lot of those same buyers are underwater, stuck in developments, surrounded by open land and disappointment. Local families who just wanted affordable housing have also been squeezed out by waves of out-of-state money. And now, they're watching those same buyers try to sell and exit the market. Stick around until the end, because the number one city was recently called the hottest housing market in the country, and its reversal is pretty shocking. Before we get into it, leave a comment with your thoughts and subscribe for more updates on this changing market. Alright, let's get into it. Coming in at number 10 is Twin Falls. Out in the Magic Valley, it's not just the famous base jumpers dropping fast near the Perrine Bridge. Home equity is vanishing just as quickly. This place used to be a laid-back agricultural center where life moved at its own steady pace and people kept to themselves. Then remote work took off, and almost overnight, every open stretch of land got turned into a pricey new subdivision. Now that the boom has cooled off, the aftermath is hitting hard, and it's not pretty. Based on the latest numbers from Redfin, the median home price in the area has dropped by 11% over the past year, erasing tens of thousands of dollars for buyers who jumped in at the top. It's especially tough for locals working in dairy farms and food processing, who saw their living costs spike almost instantly. Data from the local multiple listing service shows inventory has surged by 42% compared to this same time last year, and that's putting serious pressure on sellers. Imagine listing your four-bedroom home and getting nothing but silence in return. According to Realtor.com, homes are now sitting on the market for an average of 65 days, which feels painfully long when you're stuck with a 7% mortgage on something that's losing value. And it doesn't stop there. The level of desperation is becoming obvious. Tracking from Zillow shows that 38% of listings have already cut their prices at least once in just the past month. Meanwhile, builders who were once racing to keep up with demand are now hitting the brakes hard. Figures from the United States Census Bureau indicate that new residential building permits in the county have dropped by 22%, a clear signal that developers know the boom is over. To make matters worse, the Federal Reserve Bank reports that the local debt-to-income ratio has climbed to an unsustainable 41%. People are stretched thin, struggling to keep up with payments just to live near a scenic canyon. At this point, you've got sellers clinging to peak pandemic pricing while buyers simply shrug and walk away. That illusion of ever-rising prices has shattered, and this canyon town is bracing for a rough landing. At number 9, we've got Pocatello. Located in the eastern part of the state, this college town is now delivering a harsh crash course in the realities of supply and demand. For years, Pocatello carried a rugged, working-class vibe shaped by its railroad routes and the presence of Idaho State University, which kept the housing market steady but never flashy. Then investors swooped in, convinced they had found the next big opportunity, and drove prices to unsustainable highs. Now that story has completely unraveled, and those same speculators are feeling the pressure. Data from Redfin shows just how severe the downturn has become, with median home prices dropping 13% year over year and settling around $315,000. It's tough to watch, especially for young university staff and local railroad employees who were dragged into intense bidding wars just a couple of years ago, only to see their biggest investment steadily lose value. According to Zillow, the number of unsold homes has jumped by a staggering 51% since last spring. Meanwhile, investors who snapped up mid-century properties hoping to flip them are now stuck holding assets that aren't moving. Local property data reveals that 29% of recent sales have closed below the original asking price, giving buyers the upper hand and forcing sellers to accept significant cuts. If you want proof that buyers are hesitant, just look at how long homes are sitting. Figures from Realtor.com show properties lingering on the market for an average of 72 days before receiving any serious offers. That's more than 2 months of showings with little real interest. The situation looks even worse when you factor in rentals. Reports from Apartment List indicate that rents in the area have fallen by nearly 6%, throwing off the expected returns for small-scale landlords who overpaid for duplexes. At the same time, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that local wages have only grown by about 2%, leaving many residents unable to keep up with inflated mortgage payments. There's a certain irony here. Out-of-state investors thought this quiet railroad town would turn into a passive income goldmine, but instead, the opportunity has completely derailed. At number 8, we're looking at Idaho Falls. Set along the Snake River, this scenic city is quickly shifting from a comfortable refuge for nuclear industry professionals into a risky spot for recent homebuyers. During the housing boom, Idaho Falls developed a bit of an inflated reputation, positioning itself as the go-to alternative for people chasing mountain views without paying Jackson Hole prices. Now, reality is setting in, and the market is unraveling fast. Figures from the Intermountain Multiple Listing Service show that median home prices have dropped a steep 14% over the past year, wiping out a huge portion of the gains made during the pandemic surge. It's especially rough for first-time buyers who emptied their savings to bridge appraisal gaps, only to find themselves underwater not long after closing. Sellers are clearly on edge, and the surge in available homes makes that obvious. According to Redfin, inventory has jumped by 58% compared to this time last year. Drive through newer neighborhoods on the east side, and you'll notice "for sale" signs sitting untouched, slowly fading in front yards. Data from Zillow reveals that 41% of sellers have already had to cut their prices just to attract any interest at all. Buyer demand has thinned out dramatically, almost as if it's disappeared into the mountain air. Meanwhile, Realtor.com reports that the average home is now sitting on the market for 76 days, leaving many sellers stuck in a frustrating waiting game. Trying to juggle two mortgages in this environment is a serious financial strain. To add to the pressure, mortgage activity has dropped sharply. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau notes a 44% decline in new home loan applications in this county. When you compare that with data from the United States Census Bureau showing that local incomes haven't kept pace with rising housing costs, the numbers simply don't add up. There was a belief that this area might be insulated from broader economic forces, but that illusion is fading quickly. Right now, many of those large, newly built homes are sitting empty, as local buyers struggle to qualify for loans at today's interest rates. And the wave of remote workers that once fueled demand has clearly dried up. At number 7, we have Post Falls. Up in Idaho's northern panhandle, this formerly quiet town near the Washington border has started to look more like a cautionary tale than a success story. For a while, Post Falls soaked up a massive wave of people escaping high taxes in Spokane, turning peaceful, wooded lots into dense and overpriced suburban developments. Now that trend is reversing, and the fallout is hard to ignore. According to data from Redfin, median home prices have dropped by 15% from their peak, exposing just how inflated those values really were. It's tough to watch local workers in timber and service industries get priced out by out-of-state money, only to see those same buyers walk away once conditions shift. Inventory levels have surged dramatically. The Coeur Multiple Listing Service reports a staggering 63% increase in homes for sale compared to a year and a half ago. At the same time, buyer interest has dried up almost completely. Data from Zillow shows that 45% of listings have already reduced their prices, all competing for a much smaller group of serious buyers who are no longer buying into the hype. Homes that once sold within hours, sometimes just through a quick message, are now sitting idle. According to Realtor.com, the average property is now taking about 81 days to sell, leaving homeowners stuck in limbo while covering high property taxes. The construction outlook isn't much better. The National Association of Home Builders notes that builder confidence in the area has dropped sharply, with a 32% decline in permits for new single-family homes. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Economic Analysis reports that local income growth has slowed to just over 1%, making it increasingly difficult for residents to keep up with rising mortgage costs. At this point, it's almost ironic. Many outside investors assumed buying a standard suburban home in a cold, highway-adjacent area would automatically deliver big returns. But that expectation is clearly falling apart. At number 6, we've got Caldwell. Positioned on the western edge of the Treasure Valley, this once agricultural town has been overtaken by rapid suburban expansion, and now it's dealing with the consequences. Caldwell used to serve as a last affordable option for working-class families priced out of more central areas. Then, developers flooded in, covering large stretches of land with nearly identical homes wrapped in gray vinyl siding, all priced like upscale properties. At the moment, the housing market here is coming apart at a worrying pace. Data from Redfin shows median home prices have dropped 16% compared to last year, placing Caldwell among the hardest-hit areas in the region. It's especially frustrating for longtime residents who saw their quiet rural roads turn into busy corridors, while their property taxes surged, only for the boom to collapse soon after. The oversupply of homes is becoming a serious issue for anyone trying to sell. According to Zillow, active listings have skyrocketed by 68%, leaving entire blocks of new subdivisions eerily empty. Developers clearly overbuilt, and now they're dealing with the fallout. Local MLS data indicates that 48% of current listings have undergone price cuts within just the past month. You can sense the urgency when builders start throwing in major incentives just to clear out unsold properties. Meanwhile, Realtor.com reports that homes are now sitting on the market for an average of 84 days as buyers hesitate to jump into a declining market. The situation is getting even more strained. The Federal Housing Finance Agency reports that home equity growth in this area has turned negative for 2 straight quarters. On top of that, data from the United States Census Bureau suggests that around 27% of recent buyers are now considered house poor, spending more than a third of their income just on housing costs. There's a certain irony here. A town once known for its sprawling onion fields is now leaving real estate investors in tears as they watch their property values steadily decline. At number 5, we're looking at Nampa. Just a short drive from Caldwell, this major city, one of the largest in the state, is quickly turning into a full-blown financial mess. Nampa was heavily promoted as the perfect bedroom community for tech workers who wanted to save money while staying within reach of Boise. As a result, buyers poured in by the thousands, snapping up nearly anything available without much hesitation. That surge of overconfidence has now slammed into reality. According to Redfin, the median home price has dropped by a steep 17%, wiping out huge portions of homeowners' savings in a surprisingly short time. It's especially difficult to think about young families who were encouraged to buy at the peak, believing it would set them up financially, only to end up stuck with negative equity. The number of homes hitting the market is overwhelming. Data from Zillow shows a massive 72% increase in active listings compared to last year. Plenty of people are trying to sell, but getting out isn't so easy. The Intermountain Multiple Listing Service reports that 52% of sellers have already reduced their asking prices just to attract even low offers. If you want to understand how sluggish things have become, look at how long homes are sitting. According to Realtor.com, the average property now takes about 89 days to sell, leaving homeowners stuck waiting and wondering why their once trendy designs aren't drawing bidding wars anymore. The financial stress is starting to show in broader indicators as well. CoreLogic reports a 14% rise in early-stage mortgage delinquencies across the county, suggesting many buyers are struggling to keep up with payments. At the same time, the Bureau of Labor Statistics notes a slight increase in unemployment, adding more pressure to an already strained local economy. There's a certain irony in seeing large homes with 3-car garages sitting empty on bare lots, because at the end of the day, no matter how big the house is, someone still has to be able to afford the monthly payments to keep it running. At number 4, we have Meridian. Sitting right in the heart of the Treasure Valley, this once booming hub of retail and residential growth is now going through a dramatic downturn that many locals would rather not acknowledge. During the relocation surge, Meridian was seen as the crown jewel, packed with polished outdoor shopping centers, countless roundabouts, and carefully designed communities that somehow justified near-coastal pricing. But now that polished image is starting to crack, exposing just how fragile the housing market really is. According to Redfin, median home prices have fallen by 18% over the past year, showing that even the most sought-after suburbs aren't immune to a sharp correction. It's hard not to sympathize with local retail and service workers who were pushed out as remote workers from out-of-state drove prices sky high. Now, the situation has flipped. Data from Zillow shows that housing inventory has surged by an eye-popping 76%. The market is now flooded with higher-end homes that most buyers simply can't afford under current financing conditions. Local MLS figures indicate that 55% of listed properties have already undergone price reductions, which says a lot about how anxious sellers have become. Homes are just sitting there, stuck in limbo. According to Realtor.com, properties are averaging 93 days on the market. That's about 3 months of showings without serious offers. And the strain goes beyond just home values. The Federal Reserve Bank reports a 26% drop in consumer credit applications locally, suggesting households are pulling back hard to manage rising financial pressure. Meanwhile, the United States Census Bureau indicates that population growth from in-migration has slowed significantly, cutting off the very demand that once fueled the boom. There's something almost poetic about it. Large, upscale homes built on modest lots are now losing massive chunks of value. In the end, many buyers bought into the idea of a luxury suburban lifestyle, only to find themselves locked into high-interest mortgages tied to a market that's quickly losing its shine. At number 3, we're looking at Eagle. Nestled near the foothills, this upscale community was once seen as the ultimate status destination for newcomers, but now it's starting to feel more like a high-priced financial pitfall. Eagle has always sat at the top of the market, known for its expansive custom homes, exclusive golf courses, and tightly regulated homeowner associations. But when prices climb that high, the downside can be severe. Data from Redfin shows that luxury home values have dropped by a staggering 21%, erasing hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity from individual properties in under a year. While it's difficult to feel too sorry for wealthy investors taking losses, it's a different story for retirees who settled here expecting long-term stability in their home values. The surge in high-end inventory is unlike anything seen before. According to Zillow, active listings have jumped by 82% compared to this time last year. Many affluent homeowners are now rushing to sell, hoping to exit before prices fall even further. Figures from the Intermountain Multiple Listing Service indicate that 58% of these luxury properties have already gone through major price reductions. At this point, many of these large estates are starting to look like relics of the pandemic housing boom. Meanwhile, Realtor.com reports that homes in this area are taking an average of 112 days to sell. There simply aren't enough buyers willing or able to take on mortgage payments that can reach $10,000 a month. The pressure is only increasing. Local tax assessors are seeing a spike in property tax appeals as homeowners try to reduce their expenses on homes that are losing value. At the same time, the Federal Housing Administration has reported zero loan originations for first-time buyers in this area, highlighting just how inaccessible this market has become. There's a certain sense of irony in watching high-end developments that once symbolized luxury now sit empty for months as the expectations of endless bidding wars fade into reality. At number 2, we're talking about Boise itself. The state capital essentially became the face of the national housing frenzy, and now it stands as one of the clearest examples of how quickly an overheated real estate market can unravel. Boise was everywhere, featured in magazines, ranked as one of the best places to live, and heavily marketed as a relocation paradise. That reputation brought in a wave of cash-heavy buyers that completely overwhelmed the local housing system. Today, though, the aftermath is severe. Data from Redfin shows a sharp 23% drop in median home prices from the peak, wiping out years of appreciation and leaving many recent buyers underwater. It's especially hard to watch what this has meant for local college graduates and working-class families, many of whom were priced out of their own city as they competed against high-tech salaries from California. Now, as some of those same tech workers return to the coast or lose jobs entirely, the housing market is feeling the pressure from both sides. According to Zillow, unsold inventory has surged by an astonishing 88%. Neighborhoods that once saw crowded open houses and intense competition are now noticeably quiet. MLS data shows that 61% of active listings have already reduced their prices in an attempt to attract whatever demand is left. What you're seeing is a tense standoff between sellers who won't accept losses and buyers who simply can't afford the old pricing anymore. The slowdown is also showing up in how long homes are sitting on the market. Realtor.com reports that the average listing now takes about 120 days to sell, roughly 4 months of carrying a mortgage on a property that may not be generating any income. For many small or inexperienced investors, that kind of timeline alone can become financially overwhelming. Broader economic signals aren't helping either. The Bureau of Labor Statistics points to a slowdown in regional tech job growth, while data from the United States Census Bureau shows that median local incomes are nowhere near high enough to comfortably support current home prices at today's interest rates. And now, watching out-of-state investors scramble to unload recently flipped homes, often at steep losses, feels like a harsh reminder that speculation always comes with consequences. At number 1 on the list, we're talking about Coeur d'Alene, referred to here as Coeur, the once glamorous crown jewel of the pandemic housing boom that has now turned into the most extreme real estate downturn in the entire state. This scenic lakeside resort town attracted an intense wave of interest during the boom years, pulling in billionaires, celebrities, and a huge influx of out-of-state buyers who rushed to grab up cabins, condos, and even undeveloped land without hesitation. Now, that same market is experiencing a dramatic reversal. According to Redfin, median home prices have fallen by a staggering 26%, marking the steepest loss of housing wealth in the state and leaving many recent buyers facing serious negative equity. It's hard not to feel for longtime residents, people working in marinas, restaurants, and small local businesses, who were pushed out of their own community, sometimes forced into RV living or long commutes, simply because investors were buying second and third homes they barely used. Now the situation has flipped completely. Data from Zillow shows inventory has surged by an incredible 95%, flooding the market with expensive properties that few buyers are willing or able to take on. The Coeur d'Alene Multiple Listing Service reports that 64% of active listings have already reduced their prices, signaling widespread desperation as sellers try to adjust to rapidly falling demand. Selling in this environment has become extremely difficult. Realtor.com indicates that homes are now sitting on the market for an average of 135 days, turning what used to be a hot luxury destination into a long, expensive waiting game for sellers. During colder months, the financial strain only gets worse, with vacant luxury cabins accumulating costs through taxes and utilities while remaining unsold. The broader financial picture is just as troubling. CoreLogic has recorded a rise in high-balance mortgage defaults, suggesting that even affluent buyers are starting to walk away from underwater investments. At the same time, local tourism and rental income are weakening as the Coeur d'Alene Chamber of Commerce reports a sharp drop in short-term rental occupancy, undermining the exact income strategy many investors use to justify their purchases. What stands out most is how quickly sentiment has shifted, from aggressive speculation to widespread regret, as properties that once symbolized luxury are now sitting empty in a slowing market. The collapse has been especially painful for local families caught in the middle, while out-of-state speculation unwinds in real time. Seeing once bustling neighborhoods turn into clusters of unsold inventory brings a complicated mix of frustration at the speculation and sympathy for the residents dealing with the fallout.